5-16 overall, 1-8 in Big Ten play. But the good news, fellas, is that we only had to watch the Michigan Wolverines get blown out once this week, not twice. Welcome to Wolverine Alley-Oop. I am Danny Sass, filling in for Adam Wallace today, alongside Evan Weber, Matt Dubin. Guys, a lot going on in the Big Ten this week as we hit the season's halfway point. And we have rivalry week coming up as well on the national scene. But first, the Michigan Wolverines celebrated the 40-year anniversary of Chrysler Arena by hosting the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and things did not go according to plan. Take a look at the tape. Things were not pretty here. Ron Coleman getting things started for Michigan with a layup. Nice start early, but right back comes Dan Coleman for Minnesota. No relation there. Big fella getting it done. Take a look at the Sean Sims quiet game, but he gets a nice little touch in early. Manny Harris, good again. You see him here pulling down a rebound off a steal, coming down and banging it home. Nice dunk for him. He had 19, but Lawrence Westbrook coming right back from Minnesota, hitting a jumper. Ron Coleman, easily his best game of the year. The senior stepping it up, banging down a three. Next possession, one more time, Ron Coleman from the corner. Good game from him. Damian Johnson stuffs one home there for Minnesota. Minnesota getting the job done all around in the first half. Dan Coleman right back with another layup. And again, Damian Johnson with another dunk. Minnesota off and running early in the first half. Michigan trying to keep it close. A tip in there from Epe Udo. Manny Harris hitting a runner. There we go. Michigan down 8 at the half as we see Kazzy Russell coming in, celebrating the 40-year anniversary of Chrysler Arena. But like we said, Minnesota would ruin this party. Let's take a look at some second half action. Minnesota, big fella Spencer Tollickson in the lane, getting the layup. Lawrence McKenzie with a layup. Easy buckets here for Minnesota. Nothing really contested. The drive, the pullback, the step back, beats the shot clock. That is Lawrence McKenzie. Minnesota 58% from the field. Deshaun Sims with a jump hook, but too much Minnesota. Lawrence McKenzie with a three. Ron Coleman, bring it down, dribble, 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 hacked, and one. Nice little game for Ron Coleman, but it was all for naught. Manny Harris with a jumper, trying to keep Michigan close. And Michigan would hang in there a little bit in the second half, but things just got out of hand. You see, that would be McKenzie with a steal and a layup. Zach Gibson getting involved in the action. But all of this, too little, too late. Westbrook again with a jumper. Bang, beating the shot clock as you see that winding down. Tollickson with another layup underneath. We said last week they got to contain the big fellas, Coleman and Tollickson, too much for the Golden Gophers. Manny Harris, another good game, 19 points, but all for naught. Another losing effort for the Wolverines. Three from the corner there. Yeah, it's fun and everything, CJ. Anthony Wright, CJ Lee, some of the reserves getting involved, but another 12-point loss on the home arena. You see it right there, 77-65. Chrysler sees another Big Ten game and another loss. You see the box score there. You see the scores there and the stats. Harris with 19, Coleman 14, Minnesota, McKenzie, Coleman, Westbrook, way too much. Guys, you know, it's like we're a broken record every week. The shooting percentage just killing the Michigan Wolverines. 36% from the field, only 24% from behind the arc, and Minnesota a whopping 58.5% from the field. Let's round up and call that 59. The shooting was just keep on continuing, as that graphic says. Yeah. Is this a case where the offensive struggles are starting to turn into a struggle on defense as well, Evan?
Well, I think this is more a case of a momentum. We start a game off, and when you start shooting three-pointers like we were in the game, 24%, 6 of 25, you're obviously going to lose momentum in the game, and you're going to struggle on the defensive side. And in this game, we really saw Tubby Smith's hype basketball. We saw physical offense, guys in the post, bumping people around, coming off screens. And to be honest with you, there was no help defense in this game, and that's what really upset me about this Michigan team, is that as soon as someone drove into the paint, no one else picked the guy up, and they got easy baskets because of it, and that's why they shot 59%.
Yeah, you know, Evan, you look at these highlights here, it's a lot of layups, a lot of dunks, a lot of easy, uncontested shots. Matt, is this a case where, you know, all the problems on offense, whether it's you know, problems shooting the three or problems getting good, clean, open shots, and then obviously the rebounding woes, is this turning into easy baskets for opposing teams?
Yeah, well, I mean, half of our shots are three-pointers, 25 shots. We took 25 threes out of 58 shots. It's almost half. I'm not a math teacher, but I think it's almost half.
Fair enough. You're close.
And it's just ridiculous. And threes lead to long rebounds, which leads to transition buckets for Minnesota. And, you know, we just can't we can't do anything well anymore, and just like our bad offense is turning into bad defense. We have no players who can play under Beeline's system. Udo down low is a joke. Zach Gibson, who's a big man, takes threes also. So, you know, we just we're not doing anything well, and it's just contagious on both ends of the floor. And this season is already lost, and hopefully they can just try to build for next year.
Well, Matt, you mentioned on that same note the three-point shooting has been dismal all season long, 6 for 25 on Thursday. Matt, is it time for Beeline, you mentioned this, to realize that he doesn't have the horses, he doesn't have the players to run the kind of offense that he ran at West Virginia? You know, he has no Gansey, he has no Pittsnoggle, and with this group of players, you know, the missed shots seem to be piling up. Should they run a new offense? We'll start with you, Matt.
Well, I mean, what other offense are you going to run? Who are you going to give it to? You're going to give it to Gibson down low? He can't hit a jump hook. Udo can't do anything down low. He's one of the top shot blockers in the Big Ten, but offensively he can't really do much. So, I mean, the players we have right now can't really do much of anything. So I think we should just continue with Beeline's offense, and once we have more of his recruits for next year, hopefully we can make a better run and maybe finish 500. But for right now, we just got to stay the course and just ride this nightmare throughout the rest of the season, and hopefully we can get a quality W or two before this ends.
Evan?
Yeah, I think this is it's an introduction year. I mean, you have to sort of give Beeline a break. He has none of his own recruits on the floor at all times for Michigan. But I think if you've looked at Beeline's previous teams, he's always succeeded running his offense, bringing big guys out to the three-point line, shooting a lot of three-pointers, running a fast-paced style offense. And I think if you look back and you see Gansey and Pittsnoggle, they really didn't emerge on the national scene until they were juniors and seniors. So I think it really takes time for players to evolve and adjust to Beeline's offense. And I think once our players do that here at Michigan, we'll start seeing more success.
Well, you know, you mentioned some of these players. Gansey, Pittsnoggle didn't emerge to their junior, senior years. Obviously, Sims, Manny Harris, Kelvin Grady, all these guys, young freshmen, sophomores, underclassmen. So they will be here for a while, and they will have some time, hopefully, to grow into this John Beeline system. As we mentioned earlier in the show, you guys, 40-year anniversary at Chrysler, big celebration on hand. Chrysler's seen some moments in its years. You know, we had the Fab Five, we had Glenn Rice, and obviously the 67-68 team that was in attendance, Cassie Russell, Ruby T, who was supposed to attend but didn't. Evan, what does this arena mean for Michigan basketball fans? Well,
you also failed to mention Jamal Crawford, who we all love and know here in Michigan.
How many games was that? 6, 7, 8 games?
That was a little sarcastic. But to be honest, I think everyone here at Michigan is a little bit ready to sort of abandon Chrysler. We've had some historical games here. Like you said, the Fab Five, one of the greatest teams in college basketball history. But as far as recruiting goes, and enjoyment from the fans, I think they're really looking for a more intimate environment, a larger stadium, something that's going to draw fans to come to see Michigan games and really show more support for the team. And I think the only way to do that, you have to update facilities and you have to update the stadium. And I think that's the only way the Michigan program will continue to see good recruits coming in and find success.
Matt, do you agree with that? Is it time for Chrysler to go?
No, I mean, I think Chrysler's fine. I think it's the team that they put on the basketball floor that's the problem. If you have a good team, you're going to fill the seats. There's only 13,000 seats there, and you're not even filling half of them right now. And I mean, like, for example, Poly Pavilion in LA isn't that great, but I mean, they fill the seats, and it's a classic stadium because of the teams they've had on the floor. And we've had great teams here in Michigan with Cassie Russell and then Glenn Rice and the Fab Five, like you guys mentioned. And then you've had amazing concerts. You've had Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band.
Yeah,
and
1980.
You've had John Lennon getting John Sinclair out of jail in the 70s. So I mean, yeah, Chrysler, I think it's fine. It's not the greatest stadium, but you know, there's tradition there. And once we have a good team back on the floor, I don't think the stadium's going to be the problem.
Well, check it out, a Chrysler Arena history lesson here on Wolverine Alley-Oop. Guys, we're going to take it to a quick break, but we have some Big Ten banter coming up. Stay tuned for more Wolverine Alley-Oop.
It's going to be a good show tonight, Jesse.
Better than Tuesday newsfeed, at least.
You know we're right here, right? Yeah, guys, what's your problem?
Hey guys, no offense. All I'm saying is we're better at reading the news than you.
What? We're better than you? Heck yeah, we'd totally take you in a talk-off.
Fine, it's a talk-off.
Chinook sells seashells down by the seashore to swimmers that shout shameful sayings at sharks that shout shameful sayings back.
Peter Piper picked a peck of Did Peter Piper pick a peck of pickled peppers? If Peter Oh no, go to weather, now!
They're sending out their weather? No, go to weather. We're going to weather.
What are you doing here?
I'm trying to do weather, Kate.
I'm doing weather tonight.
No, I'm sorry.
They
put
told
the best
me.
people on weather for tonight.
Oh, are you kidding?
Cut.
What?
Hey, it's my night. I say cut.
Did you just see that? Obviously, our night Wednesday is a lot better, right?
Of course.
Be sure to turn in Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night for all your campus, local, and international news.
See you then.
Welcome back to Wolverine Alley-Oop. Danny, Evan, Matt. Guys, we're at the halfway point now, Big Ten schedule. Some things gone according to plan, some things haven't. Michigan obviously at the bottom of the schedule, and you look to the top, you see teams like Purdue. No one really expected them to be up there. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put on our little evaluators caps, and we're going to go ahead and give out some little midterm grades, some predictions, some prognostications, a little this, a little that. And we're going to start with the biggest surprise of the year, Matt. Who do you have as the biggest surprise in the Big Ten?
I mean, I guess you got to go Purdue. They have 8 players averaging over 5 points a game. They have great balance. They have 5 losses, but they've lost to MSU by 3. They beat Louisville. Every single loss they have is by 3 points, except for 1, which was by 10. So, I mean, they have a great balance. Keaton, Grant, Etwan Moore, great players. And, I mean, they're right there. They should make the tournament with ease. And I don't think anybody really expected them to be this good, even after a 22-win last season. But you got to call them the biggest surprise of the Big Ten.
Evan, you agree with him?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you failed to mention, Matt, is that they have 4 of their top scorers. 3 of them are freshmen, and one of them is a sophomore. And you look at the youth on this team, and I mean, for the next 3 or 4 years, these guys are going to contend for a Big Ten title every single year. And you look at the like you said, balance. 3 guys in double figures every game this season, at least. And so I really think, these guys could actually contend for the Big Ten title this year if they keep rolling like they are right now. They're 8-1 in the Big Ten. They're playing unselfish basketball. And like you said, they keep games close. And in the game of NCAA basketball, teams that do that successfully always seem to upset, higher-ranked teams. And so we might see Purdue, throw Michigan State off the map for a second, or even Indiana.
Well, we saw them beat Wisconsin, so it's definitely, they showed they can play with the big boys. I'm in total agreement with you here. I have Purdue as my biggest surprise. I think they're playing some good basketball, and they keep it up. Next thing they're going to know, they're going to find themselves top of the Big Ten standings where they are now. Mm-hmm. On the flip side of this debate, Evan, who do you have as your biggest disappointment?
Well, my first instinct would be to say Michigan, but for purposes of the show, I'll switch it up and say Illinois. I think coming out with Pruitt and Randall, some experience on the floor, guys who can pound the ball in the paint, get rebounds, and Meacham on the outside, a pretty good three-point shooter. I think they expected to at least be in the top 3 or 4 teams in the Big Ten, but that fails to be the case, guys. They're 11-12 this season, and I think and 2-8 in Big Ten play, which is just terrible, especially for a team that usually contends for a Big Ten title. So I think Illinois right now is probably the most disappointing team in the Big Ten.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, Illinois has been bad, but I think Michigan, you can't really go wrong by calling them the biggest disappointment. I mean, we expected some growing pains with John Beilein, but 5-16 is just ridiculous. I mean, I know we're rebuilding, but like I think Adam said last week, we don't build on anything. We put up a really good performance against UCLA, and then we a complete dud against Wisconsin after that. Then we lose to Wisconsin in our second meeting with them by 3. Looked like we could pull out that game, and then we get killed by MSU. It's just like, it seems like all of the times where we look okay, it's just a complete fluke, and we have awful losses. We won the first 2 games of the year, which don't even count because against awful teams. So we're basically 3-16. It's ridiculous. It's really bad for the University of Michigan basketball program, and I don't think anybody really expected it to be this bad, even though we were expecting a rebuilding year.
Well, laying it on hard there, I agree. Matt, obviously Michigan a disappointment. Illinois, though, 2-8 in conference play, and this is a team that has high hopes every year.
Yeah.
They were getting votes in the beginning of the year in preseason polls.
Mm-hmm. Kept it close with Arizona.
Yeah, and then from there it was just downhill.
Yeah.
Struggles.
What can you say?
Well, guys, I'm sure you both watched the Super Bowl. Yes?
Yeah. Well,
fantastic. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, we're coming off a Super Bowl. We saw the New York Giants, a team that struggled throughout many parts of the regular season early on and a rough patch there down the stretch, and yet they come back, they catch fire in the playoffs and win a title. Matt, is there a team in the Big Ten that you think can catch some fire here in the second half of the season and go on maybe a Big Ten conference title, maybe even go into the dance?
Yeah, I mean, I think Iowa, I mean, I think they're 11-13, but they've had some big wins. They beat Michigan State. They lost to Wisconsin by 3, and I think I think they're a really good team. And they have 2 guys who can play in Tony Freeman and Justin Johnson. And I mean, they're not going to come back and make the tournament, but I think you can expect them to really give some people some trouble in the second half of the Big Ten season, and and finish in the top half of the standings, and maybe make the tournament next year.
What are your thoughts, Evan?
I don't know. I think Iowa's a pretender. I mean, they had a few good games this season, but overall they lack talent and they lack experience. And I think that's going to hurt them towards the end of the season. I'm going with Purdue again. Like we said, they've been playing well lately, and I think they'll finish the season strong. We talked about last week, we talked about Ohio State really coming out and playing solid basketball with Jamar Butler and Costa Kufos in the paint. But I think they've only beaten a ranked team once this season, and it was the third game of the season against a less than great Syracuse team. So I think Ohio State will eventually fall off the map, and Purdue will sort of grab that third spot in the Big Ten.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say Minnesota here. You guys didn't mention this team. They looked pretty good against Michigan the other night. They got two solid bigs in Coleman and Tollickson. They got the Lawrences in the backcourt, two guards that can play some basketball, and they can shoot the three ball. Throw Tubby Smith to that. It's a team I wouldn't want to be playing if I'm a Michigan State or a Wisconsin first round of the tournament. That's a team that can maybe burst somebody's bubble. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
A lot of basketball still to be played. Evan, who's your Big Ten Conference MVP right now? I know you've been high on Eric Gordon. You going to stick with your boy?
I have. Well, I've been high on Indiana, but I'm actually switching up. I'm going with DJ White. I think when you look at this guy, I mean, he is playing terrific basketball night in and night out. He's putting up 17.5 points a game, 10.7 rebounds, and 1.8 blocks. He's getting it done on both sides of the floor. And when you look at a team like Indiana, where they have two, maybe three guys in the rotation on the post, he's really the guy that they depend on for defense, for rebounding, for defense. He drives everything in that team. Eric Gordon, the best scorer, hands down, probably the best passer on the team as well. Gets to the free throw line also. But when you look at importance to the team on both ends of the floor, DJ White does it for Indiana, and you can't compare him to anyone else in the Big Ten right now.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Zach Gibson for Michigan. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go with DJ White also. He's at 18 and 11. He's the anchor for that Indiana team, who's second in rebounding in the Big Ten. And I mean, he is the one that makes that train go. And Eric Gordon, he's the flashy player who he's getting a lot of national attention. But that team would be nowhere without DJ White. He's shooting 62%, which leads the conference, and I'm sure is up there in the national sphere. But yeah, so I'm going to go with him. And he's having as good of a season as Kevin Love of UCLA, and just up there with Hansbrough of UNC. It's just a great, great season for him.
I mean, could you go with Raymar Morgan as well?
You easily could. I'm going to go ahead and call this a whiteout because I have White as well. You could go Gordon, you could go Morgan, you could even throw Neitzel in the mix. I mean, I know he hasn't been playing his best basketball, but a floor general for a team like that.
Yeah, almost put up a triple-double a few games ago.
Exactly, 18-7-7 against Michigan, so he can obviously get it done. We'll move on real quick right here. Real quick, conference champion, regular season. I've been saying Michigan State all along. They threw that stink bomb up against Penn State, so I got to reevaluate. But go ahead, Matt.
I'm going to go Indiana. I think they have the best dynamic duo in the country with Eric Gordon and DJ White. And, their schedule is not that bad. They only have one tough road game left this year at MSU. After that, all their other tough games are at home. I think they're going to only lose one more game this season and win the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah. You agreeing with him?
Matt, I think you're looking off my notes here because, I agree. I'm going with Indiana. I said at the beginning of the season, they've struggled lately, but I think they'll really rebound. Eric Gordon's going to find his shot again. He's been struggling a little bit lately, and they'll get their offense going and round out the Big Ten.
I'm sticking with State, so whatever. I made the prediction in the beginning of the year. I'm sticking with it for the time being. Real quick here, the obvious answer is 5, but I'll ask it anyways. How many teams going dancing from the Big Ten?
I'll go with 4.
Really?
Yeah.
Ohio State?
Not in? Ohio State gets snubbed this year.
Really?
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to go 5. And, Minnesota even has a chance if they can get hot, but I'm going to have to go with 5.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going 5 as well. Ohio State's getting in. That's just my hunch, but 4. We'll see if that holds up. We'll see if it holds up. It's commercial time again here. We're going to take a quick peek at the national scene when we come back. Stay tuned.
Houston, we have a problem. What? I missed Grey's Anatomy last week, and now I'm going to be so behind.
Still missing the problem here.
What do you mean? We're talking about Grey's here, the most watched television show.
Okay, well, I get that, but what I don't get is why you don't just watch The Entertainment Buzz on WOLV TV. They have recaps of all of today's most popular television shows, plus you can get previews of upcoming movies and find out what's hot in Hollywood. I mean, there's no reason not to watch.
That show's the coolest. They interviewed The Rock on that show.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna go catch a spit. And guys, I wonder who this week's short shot's gonna be.
We're gonna go watch the Entertainment Buzz right now. I'm with them. Gotta go catch Grace. I guess everyone's going to catch the Entertainment Buzz, only on WOLV TV.
Welcome back to Wolverine Alley-Oop. Again, I am Danny. This is Evan. That fine gentleman is Matt. Guys, it's rivalry week. Fun, hooray, happy basketball everywhere in the country.
Good basketball.
We're going to start down in the Big 12. Missouri, the Tigers, played Kansas tough earlier this year, losing at home by 6 to the Jayhawks. Matt, can the Tigers go into Lawrence and maybe hand the Jayhawks their second loss in 3 games?
No way will they beat Kansas. They have 3 guys suspended from that nightclub altercation, and you know, they're going into Kansas. Missouri just upset Kansas State. They're not going to have enough in the tank. Kansas just has so much balance at 5 guys over 9 points per game. They shoot 50% on the year, average over 80 points a game as a team. There's just way too much there for Missouri to give them a run for their money. I think it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I've been high on Kansas all season. And if you looked at the last game where Missouri kept it close, Kansas didn't score in the last 7.5 minutes of this game. They did not score a field goal in the last 7.5 minutes. And I think if you can sneak away with a win after doing that, I mean, you're a talented team. That's all I got to say.
Kansas got to the line in that game some 40-odd times as well, so they were getting their points, just not from the field. You never know. Missouri.
And I mean the defense. We talk about 80 points a game. Kansas scoring is unbelievable, but the defensive tenacity is so good on that team. They just click on that half-court trap every single game, and I mean they'll continue to do it.
Well, I agree with you for what it's worth. Kansas wins this game. We'll move into the Big Ten. Michigan, Ohio State, one of those games that feel like no matter what the sport, what the scenario, it's always going to be close. But on paper, this looks like it should be a blowout. Tuesday night, Columbus, do the Wolverines stand a chance?
Nah, I'm not so sure, guys. I think with Costa Kufos in the paint, an inside-outside game with Jamar Butler making 3 3-pointers a game, the Michigan defense is really going to struggle against a solid Ohio State team. And although I was sort of low on them earlier, talking about how they might struggle towards the end of the season, they won't struggle in this game.
Matt?
I mean, what better way for Ohio State to right the ship after coming off a loss to Iowa than playing at home against the 5-16 Michigan squad? Who's going to stop Jamar Butler? How many boards is Othello Harrington going to have in Kufos? I mean, like, it's going to be a blowout, and there's no way around that.
You know, you never know, though. Michigan, Ohio State, one of those games, I'm sure John Bielen's boys are going to be fired up. They're going to win one game. It's going to be this one, as far as upsets go. We usually see this rivalry on the football field, again, like Michigan, Ohio State, but Tennessee, Florida. Gators coming off a really ugly loss on the road to Arkansas. I have a feeling Tennessee's going to wipe the floor with them. Matt, you want to weigh in on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Tennessee. They've won 14 out of 15 games, and they're coming off a big win against Mississippi State. And they got Chris Lofton, and they're going to make Philip Fulmer proud and take care of Florida, I think, pretty easily by 10 or 15 points.
Yeah, you know, I like Florida a lot this season, especially with their standout freshman Nick Calathes, who I think might be one of the best point guards in college basketball right now. But I think Tennessee is just too experienced, too physical. They can go inside, outside. Chris Lofton, like you said, he has the 3-point record, I believe, now in history of college basketball. So I think they'll just be a little bit too physical for Florida. And they'll come away with it.
Once Chris Lofton, I mean, he's starting to find his stroke. This is a dangerous Tennessee team, well coached, experienced. I think they can do some things, especially. I'm so pumped to see them play Memphis in a couple weeks. Should be a doozy. We're going to head back to the Big Ten. Another game that looks like it should be pretty easy on paper, but as we know, Eric Gordon, who had originally given a verbal to play at Illinois, changes his mind, ends up at Indiana, and now he's heading back to Champaign. I'm sure he'll be the target of many boos there. Is this going to be an easy Hoosier W, or is Eric Gordon going to get a handful from these Illinois players in this Fighting Illini crowd?
Well, I don't know. I mean, any game in Champaign is going to be a tough one, but like we were talked about earlier, this Illinois team is really, really struggling, even at home this season, which is very unlike them. So I think Indiana's going to come in. They'll play their game, solid basketball all the way, as long as they're healthy. I think Armand Bassett, their point guard, is a very underrated player for them. Sometimes they really depend on his basketball or his ball movement to get the offense flowing. So, but I think we'll see a pretty substantial win in Champaign.
You agreeing with him, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, Illinois has been playing some disgusting basketball as of late. They lost 8 and 10.
Disgusting in a good way or bad way? We got it. Okay,
you mean
West Coast.
There's 2 wins are against Michigan and Northwestern, and and that doesn't really count. And so I'm going to take Indiana, and any shot Eric Gordon misses is just going to be gobbled up by DJ White and slammed home. So I'm going to go with Indiana.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I agree with you guys both on this one. We're such harmony, agreeing with everything.
I know.
Here. Well, we'll see how this one plays out. Tobacco Road, Duke, Carolina, Wednesday night. Should be a doozy. 2 and 3 in the most recent polls. Who you taking, Matt?
I'm going to have to go with UNC because
really?
Ty Lawson I don't think is going to play. I read an article on ESPN.com today. That's my site. And looks like he's not going to play. And I think this is Duke's time to really show that they're right there with anybody in the country come tournament time. And I think they're going to pull it out in a really hostile environment. And they're playing great basketball. And they're basically one Pittsburgh three-pointer not going in from being undefeated this year. So I think this is going to be a huge win for them.
So you're taking Duke? Is that okay?
I'm taking Duke.
Okay.
Did I say UNC?
You did say UNC at
I
first.
meant Duke.
Evan?
Sorry, guys.
Excellent. I'm actually going to go with Dickie V on this one. I think he'll really come out, shoot it. No, I'm just kidding. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's actually going to broadcast this game for the first time in a few months, which I'm excited about. But realistically, I think if Ty Lawson plays this game, he plays such an integral part in that team's offense. If he comes out, like you said, there are reports he might not play, but it's not for sure yet. If he comes out and plays for them, I think UNC will come away with a win. But if not, I think Duke has a very, very legitimate chance to upset UNC at home or at UNC.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, with my boy John Shire shooting threes on the outside, and Greg Paulus being the floor general that he is every single game, and not to mention standout freshman Kyle Singler, I think they could get it done.
For some reason, I cannot see UNC losing on their home court to Duke. It's just the way it goes. I'm taking the Tar Heels.
Nah.
But before we head and start wrapping all this up, we have Michigan, Ohio State, the Yankees, Sox. We have Harvard, Yale. Where do we put Duke, UNC among this? Real quick.
I'm going to put it third after Yankees, Sox, Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State, when they play each other, it's usually for a Big Ten title or even a national championship bid. And when Duke and UNC go head-to-head, it's kind of usually for regular season bragging rights. They don't meet too much in March. So I'm going to go with I'm going to put them in third, even though it's as fierce of rivalry as any. The stakes during the games aren't as high as these other rivalries.
Evan?
You know, this is a tough one because historically you have to go with the Yankees and Red Sox and probably Michigan, Ohio State as well. But recently, I mean, God, I'm so wrapped up in college basketball. I don't know. I'm going with second. Why not?
Fair enough.
I'm not
a
baseball fan.
I'm sure if I lived in North Carolina, I'd be putting this one. But Michigan, Ohio State, Yankees, Sox, I have them third as well. Guys, why even bother with the AP poll and the USA Today poll and the coaches poll when we have our very own WOLV poll? Let's check it out.
Yeah.
Memphis back at top spot, knocking down Kansas, who had a rough loss. 5 first-place votes. Duke, UNC, UCLA, Kansas wrapping out the top 5. Georgetown, Tennessee, Texas. Butler getting some votes, and Stanford in there. Look at the Pac-10 doing work. 2 teams in there. Your boys, Matt Dubin.
I know. Go Bruins.
You're telling me Kansas is the 5th best?
I personally, I'm just going to say
team?
I put Kansas third, so I don't know who's making this poll.
Sad.
Take it up with Adam Wallace. If you guys also feel the same way, go ahead, email Adam and the gang at alley-oop@umich.edu. He answers all your emails. He loves you. He's a great person. We're going to say goodbye alongside Matt Dubin, Evan Weber. I'm Danny Sass. Take it easy. Tune in next week for more Alley-Oop.